outrageante. Tombouctou a sous la gorge le couteau tranchant d'un froid assassinat. C'est le cri de désespoir qui lancé un habitant de Tombouctou lors de la destruction des mausolées de la ville. Même sentiment de désolation et d'impuissance chez un autre Tombouctain qui disait, je le cite, « Ils ont détruit tout ce qu'on a. On n'a pas de force pour nous défendre. » Fin de citation. Madame la Présidente, Messieurs les juges, le statut de Rome prohibe et punit les actes criminels les plus intolérables, les crimes de génocide, les crimes contre l'humanité et les crimes de guerre. Ces crimes se matérialisent sous plusieurs formes, mais ils ont tous un point commun. Ils infligent un préjudice irrémédiable à la personne humaine dans sa chair ou dans son esprit, dans son âme et dans son identité. La présente affaire concerne un crime international prohibé par le statut de Rome. Un crime qui affecte l'âme et l'esprit d'un peuple, comme vous allez le voir dans mes propos d'aujourd'hui. Soumise depuis le début du mois d'avril 2012, un bon vouloir des groupes armés en Sardine et Al-Qaïda au Maghreb islamique, la population de Tombouctou se réveillait au matin du 30 juin 2012 pour constater avec consternation qu'une attaque avait été lancée par ces groupes. Ces attaques étaient menées pour détruire ce qui constituait leur patrimoine historique et occuper une place centrale dans leur vie. Madame la Présidente, Messieurs les juges, les destructions en cause dans cette affaire ont duré environ 2 semaines, jusque vers le 11 juillet 2012. En seulement une dizaine de jours, 10 bâtiments ont été attaqués et purement et simplement détruits. Il s'agissait d'édifices emblématiques. Ils faisaient partie des monuments les plus connus de Tombouctou. Ils étaient, pour la plupart d'entre eux, classés par le droit national malien. Ils étaient aussi, tout sauf un, protégés par UNESCO comme site du patrimoine mondial. Hélas, à l'époque, rien n'a été possible pour stopper la fureur destructrice des groupes armés. Et là, à l'époque, rien n'a aussi été possible pour épargner ces édifices dont la valeur était immense. With your indulgence, Your Honors, I will continue my submissions in English. The suspect, Mr. Ahmad Al-Faqi Al-Mahdi, also known by his nom de guerre, Abu Turab, is appearing before you today, charged for this callous attack which he led. An attack that was planned and carried out with various tools and equipment. The facts are out in the open. The attack received extensive media coverage around the world. Mr. Ahmad Al-Faqi Al-Mahdi and the co-perpetrators revealed to the whole world their contempt for these buildings and for the rules set out by the Rome Statute, which defines such a conduct as a war crime. Let us be clear. What is at stake here is not just walls and stones. The destroyed mausoleums were important from a religious point of view, from an historical point of view, and from an identity point of view. Such an attack against buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments falls into the category of crimes that destroy the roots of an entire people and profoundly and irremediably affect its social practices and structures. This is precisely why such acts constitute a crime under Article 8, 2E, 4 of the Rome Statute. Let there be no mistake. The charges we have brought against Ahmad al-Mahdi al-Faqi involve most serious crimes. They are about the destructions of irreplaceable historic monuments, and they are about a callous assault on the dignity and identity of entire populations and their religion and historical roots. The inhabitants of northern Mali, the main victims of these attacks, deserve to see justice done. No longer should such reprehensible conduct go unpunished. Allow me to begin with the religious dimension of the mausoleums. The mausoleums and saints of Timbuktu play an important role in the daily lives of the city's inhabitants. The mausoleums are frequently visited by the city's residents, usually on Fridays. They are places of worship. The act of going to the mausoleums is perceived as a sign of faith and religious piety. Some even travel to them on pilgrimages. It is specifically these practices that the armed groups Ansar Din and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb wanted to annihilate by destroying the mausoleums in question. As witness P-125 stated, the destruction of the mausoleums, and I quote him, a fait très mal à la population, end of quote. It became impossible for the inhabitants of Timbuktu to devote themselves to their religious practices. These practices, which were deeply rooted in their lives. These practices, which signified the deepest and most intimate part of a human being, faith. These practices, which were part of their shared life together. At this point, I wish to stress that this case is not about determining who was right or wrong from a religious point of view. The bottom line is that the attacked monuments had a religious use and had a historic nature. This is all that matters. To intentionally direct an attack against such monument is a war crime under the Rome Statute, regardless of the judgment by other people on the religious practices by the inhabitants of Timbuktu. Madam President, Your Honors, the mausoleums and mosques in Timbuktu were not only intrinsic to the current religious practices, they were also very closely linked to the city's past and rich history. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Timbuktu became one of the intellectual and spiritual capitals of Africa. It played an essential role in the expansion of Islam. It was the cradle of education, a place of enlightenment for generations of students, and attracted many scholars, some of whom are considered Muslim saints. Following their deaths, mausoleums were erected in their honor and to celebrate their contributions. The destruction of such monuments constitutes the annihilation of structures that had survived the ravages of time and which stood to testimony as testimony to Timbuktu's glorious past, an important place in history, and to its people over generations. At the time of the events, the Minister of Culture of Mali, shocked by such destructive acts, stated, and I quote, "Our ancestors bequeathed us with these properties. My plea is to preserve the country's history," end of quote. The mausoleums that were attacked and destroyed were not only invaluable and irreplaceable testimony to history and a site of religious practice, they also, more generally, embodied Timbuktu's image and identity. Timbuktu is also known as the city of 333 saints. To destroy Timbuktu's mausoleums is to destroy its identifying symbol. As a resident of the city declared on Radio France Internationale, and I quote, "The people are very, very angry today because the mausoleum is the symbol of Timbuktu, end of quote. More so, to destroy the mausoleums is to erase this element of collective identity that the people of Timbuktu built through the ages. It means the annihilation of a civilization's landmark and crucible, which constitutes necessary archetypes at the social memory and helps build and inspire future generations. The Minister of Culture of Mali summed up these considerations most aptly in February of 2013 when called the destruction, and I quote, "an attack on the lifeblood of our souls, on the very quintessence of our cultural values. Their purpose was to destroy our past, our identity, and indeed our dignity," end of quote. Madam President, Your Honors, beyond Mali, the sites attacked were not only important for the people of Timbuktu and Mali, they were also important for whole Africa and the entire world. It is rightly said that the cultural heritage is the mirror of humanity. Such attacks affect humanity as a whole. We must stand up to the destruction and defacing of our common heritage. This point is brought home most forcefully when we consider the reactions to the suspect's campaign of destruction in Timbuktu. Algeria, for example, through its foreign ministry and spokesperson, strongly condemned the attacks, stating that the mausoleums, and I quote, "are not only part of the Islamic cultural heritage belonging to the memory and collective consciousness of Mali, but also as a common heritage shared by both Algeria and Mali." The chairperson of the African group at UNESCO emphasized that, and I'm quoting again, "it is not only Mali which is affected by the destruction of heritage sites in that country. Mali's heritage sites and Africa's heritage sites, and they are Africa's heritage sites, and they are also the world's heritage sites," end of quote. As a matter of fact, with one exception, all of the sites in Timbuktu had been designated by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites. This is because beyond the borders of Mali and Africa, the mausoleums constituted a chapter in the history of humanity. Humanity as a whole was affected by this loss. The attack in question rightfully raised a chorus of protest and outrage nationally, regionally, and internationally. The African Union, the UN Security Council, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, UNESCO, and many countries expressed their strong condemnations of these events. In short, humanity's collective conscience was shocked by the senseless destruction of its common heritage. Madam President, Your Honors, words of condemnation are not enough. Humanity must stand firm in rejecting these crimes through concrete punitive action. History itself, whose physical embodiment is at peril through such attacks, will not be generous to our failure to care and to act decisively. Such an attack must not go unpunished. Attacks against cultural property are a constant. Sadly, there are too many examples as recent acts of destructions in the cities of Aleppo and Palmyra in Syria demonstrate. In the words of expert witnesses, witness 151, the destructions of Timbuktu sites were for UNESCO among the most significant ones since the destruction of the statues of Bamyan Buddhas in Afghanistan in 2001, end of quote. Two resolutions from the UN Security Council issued in October and December of 2012 stressed that such acts may amount to crimes under the Rome Statute and that their perpetrators must be held accountable. We must protect our common heritage from the desecration, ravages, and long-term effects of such destructive acts. The appeals of the Malian and the international community must yield results. Such an attack is a serious crime under the Rome Statute. It is incumbent upon us to make sure that those responsible for such attacks are held responsible. This is the true significance of this hearing here today. I also want to stress that Mr. Al-Faqi al-Mahdi is one of the few identified persons from the common plan to attack Timbuktu who is still alive. Madam President, Your Honors, allow me to briefly focus on the suspect, Mr. Ahmad Al-Faqi al-Mahdi. The suspect was appointed to head the Hizbah, the Morality Brigade, which was one of the organs established by the groups. He then established and developed the Hizbah, which, as mentioned, he led from its creation in April of 2012 until September 2012. In addition to his role as head of the Hizbah, Mr. Al-Mahdi was active in some of the other structures established by armed groups in Timbuktu and in the activities they carried out in 2012 to impose by force their ideology, control, and power over the population. As the prosecution will demonstrate, the evidence against Mr. Ahmad Al-Faqi al-Mahdi is overwhelming. We will prove that Mr. Al-Mahdi espoused a common plan to attack these sites, buildings, and monuments. He was proactive and determined leader of this attack. He oversaw it in his capacity as head of the Morality Brigade, the Hizbah. He also physically participated in the attack and destruction. Madame la Présidente, Messieurs les juges, c'est la première fois que mon bureau, sur la base des éléments de preuve recueillis dans le cadre de ces enquêtes, retient un tel chef d'accusation portant sur des biens, des bâtiments religieux et culturels et des monuments historiques. C'est la première fois que cette Cour peut défendre le patrimoine culturel d'une communauté, lui reconnaître sa véritable importance et contribuer à lutter contre le fléau qui le touche et qui est trop souvent le prélude aux pires exactions contre les populations. Enfin, c'est aussi la première fois qu'un suspect dans la situation du Mali est déféré devant cette Cour. Le premier suspect, M. Ahmad Al-Faqi al-Mahdi, est devant vous, Madame la Présidente, Messieurs les juges. C'est donc l'occasion pour dire aux victimes de ces attaques que nous avons enfin entendu leur cri de désespoir. Nos investigations se poursuivent et nous attendons faire tout ce qui est à notre disposition pour que les responsables des crimes du statut de Rome qui sont commis au Mali répondent de leurs actes. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente, pour votre attention et laisse la parole à Gilles Dutertre, premier substitut du procureur en charge de cette affaire.